Hi everyone, Peter McKenzie with Rincon Property Management. I hope you're having a good day. I wanted to take a minute or two to talk to you about a serious subject, and that is what to do when your tenant stops paying rent. Now hopefully this never happens to you, but if you've been in the rental business for any length of time, it will. And you need to know the best way to handle it. We have a couple suggestions on how to get through this when it happens, and I'll share those with you. So the first thing is to have a plan. Know what you're going to do when this happens, and then that takes a lot of the guesswork out of it, and then you just execute your plan. The second thing is to act quickly. Follow your timeline that you've pre-planned. So typically rent is usually due on the first of the month, and then there's a grace period. In our company's example, it's 4 days. So if they haven't paid by the first and we're in the grace period, we'll definitely pick up the phone and ask where the rent is. But assuming they don't pay by the end of the 5th day, we physically go over there and place on the front door a 3-day notice to pay or quit. And that starts a timeline of 3 days. So they have 3 days to pay the rent and the late fee. Otherwise, an eviction gets filed. So on the 4th day, we pick up the phone, we call the attorney, and tell them to prepare the eviction. Since they are experts in that and that's all they do, they send the paperwork over to us, we sign it that day, get it back to them, and they physically file the unlawful detainer, is the name of it, with the courts. And that starts another timeline. Another thing, once you file an eviction, it's not a good idea to go back on it and allow them to stay in the unit after the eviction's been filed. So typically it's about 3 to 4 weeks for that process to play out in the courts. That's only if the tenant does not contest the eviction. So about 3 or 4 weeks, the sheriff will show up at the property and physically remove them from the property. Now if they contest it, if they think there's a reason why they shouldn't be evicted, then it could potentially go to trial. And if it goes to trial, it's more expensive because we're talking about attorney's time now, and it physically takes time to get put on the docket at with the court and whatnot. And you're adding about 2 to 3 weeks for that. So if that happens, you're looking at about 6 to 7 weeks before you can physically remove them and take back possession of the property. There's a couple things to keep in mind. Number one is follow the fair housing rules. If you're a landlord or a new landlord and you're not familiar with this, it's a good idea to get familiar. There's federal rules and there's state rules. If you break those rules, all bets are off. If you break them and they know you broke them and they want to make an issue out of it, these timelines could go completely out the window and this thing could be dragged on for months. So know the rules and follow them. As long as you operate within the law when it comes to your tenant not paying rent, it's a fairly quick and easy process. But the second you step outside of that, it gets messy real quick. The other thing is hire an attorney who specializes in evictions. They know the timelines, the laws are pretty complicated, and they know exactly how to operate within those laws. So those are the principles that I'd like you guys to follow when it comes to someone who hasn't paid rent. Hopefully it never happens to you. If you have any questions or you're in the middle of dealing with this, feel free to pick up the phone and give us a call. Again, my name's Peter. I'm with Rincon Property Management. Hope you have a good day.